Welcome to this program in the Our Finger Lakes History series. I am Seneca County historian Walter Gable. This program deals with other canals in the Finger Lakes, and it's a companion to the segment that dealt with the Erie Canal itself. These other canals in the Greater Finger Lakes that I want to talk about are shown on this map. Going left to right on this map, these canals are the Crooked Lake Canal, the Chemung Canal, the Cayuga-Seneca Canal, and the Oswego Canal. Of these four canals, only the Cayuga-Seneca Canal and the Oswego Canal are still in use. To begin with the Cayuga-Seneca Canal, it was constructed by private businessmen who saw a need to deal with the rapids on the Seneca River between Seneca Lake and Cayuga Lake. These rapids resulted from the fact that Seneca Lake water level was approximately 64 feet higher than the water level of Cayuga Lake. Approximately 50 feet of that elevation change consisted of rapids inside what became the village of Seneca Falls, and about 15 feet of elevation change is in what became the village of Waterloo. These rapids were an obstacle to boat traffic, but the rapids did provide a source for water power for various industries to develop in both Seneca Falls and Waterloo. Some businessmen formed the Seneca Lock Navigation Company to build locks to get around these rapids in Seneca Falls and Waterloo. The first boat passed through two newly constructed locks at Seneca Falls on August 23, 1815. The entire 9-mile-long canal had a minimum depth of 3 feet and a minimum width of 40 feet. This entire canal on the Seneca River between Seneca Lake and Cayuga Lake opened in September 1821. This new canal stimulated economic growth in both Seneca Falls and Waterloo. In 1825, the Erie Canal had been completed by New York State government, and it was also a huge economic success. Now, what were the locks like on this canal? There were 8 locks made of stone. 3 were inside Seneca Falls village. 1 was in the hamlet of Kingdom between Seneca Falls and Waterloo. 3 were inside the Waterloo village, and 1 was east of Seneca Falls village near to where the Seneca River empties into Cayuga Lake. The locks were typically 12 feet wide and 70 feet long and had a 10-foot lift. In this visual, you can see that the lock gates were made of wood and were opened and closed by a man literally moving the lock gate arm manually. You will also note in the visual at the top that the locks were built just long and wide enough to accommodate the size of boats in use at the time. Wisely, the state of New York realized that connecting the canal on the Seneca River with the Erie Canal would lead to still greater economic success. So the state purchased the canal on the Seneca River from the private businessmen, and on November 15, 1825, completed the connecting of the canal with the Erie Canal. Because this canal connected with Seneca Lake, agricultural produce in the Central Finger Lakes, as well as Pennsylvania coal, could now be shipped cheaply to New York City and to Europe, and manufactured goods could be brought from Europe to the Finger Lakes residents. Because of this canal connection, Seneca Falls and Waterloo underwent a major economic boom. People flocked to Seneca Falls and Waterloo to work in the industries there. For example, Seneca Falls grew from 200 people in 1820 to 2,300 people in 1831, to 3,785 people in 1835, and to over 4,000 people in 1840. Now let's look specifically at Seneca Falls to get a better understanding of how these canals led to an economic and population boom there in Seneca Falls. This map shows the course of the Seneca River and its canal inside the village of Seneca Falls. You will note that there are some islands. It was on these islands that industry sprang up to make use of the water power. Those islands became known as the flats. Here you see one of the locks on the canal inside the village of Seneca Falls. Note how the boat leaves very little space on the sides of the canal lock. In this visual, you see the island that is furthest west inside the village. The Seneca River is on the left, and the canal is on the right of the island. In the foreground is the middle falls of the three man-made falls inside the village of Seneca Falls. In this circa 1876 aerial view, you clearly see the islands that made up the flats where the industries were located. In this circa 1894 photo, you see another view of the industries on the flats. At the very top left, you see the Seneca Woolen Mills that is now the new home of the National Women's Hall of Fame. Just below that mill, you see a canal lock, and in the very center foreground is another canal lock. When the Erie Canal was being enlarged in the late 1840s, it was decided that an aqueduct would be needed to carry the Erie Canal waters over the portion of the Seneca River where these two water bodies were to meet. The reason for this is that the Seneca River at that point was about 15 feet lower in elevation because of the Montezuma marshes in the drier times of the year. Rather than have locks, an aqueduct would be built. It was named the Richmond Aqueduct in honor of its designer and builder. It was the second largest aqueduct on the Erie Canal. It was 894 feet long, 50 feet wide inside, 7 feet deep. 30 piers and 2 abutments of Onondaga limestone supported a heavy timber flume which carried the canal over the river. 31 stone arches supported the towpath. This is a recent photo of a remnant section of the Richmond Aqueduct. When the Erie Canal was reconfigured again in the early 1900s, the aqueduct was no longer needed. Instead, the Erie Canal and the Seneca River were simply to join each other. In 1903, a statewide referendum authorized an enlarged Erie Canal and its adjoining canals, including the Cayuga-Seneca Canal. The new canal on the Seneca River was to be 12 feet deep, with walls of concrete and locks with steel gates powered by electricity. This canal enlargement was extensively prompted by the competition from the railroads. The expanded Erie Canal would become known as the Barge Canal. Now the canal could handle barges with more than 33 times the capacity of the first canal vessels in 1825. Reducing transportation costs by almost 25%. But this canal enlargement meant major changes to Seneca Falls. The water level would be raised, and the flats would be flooded over and no longer exist. The industries on the flats had to be relocated or go out of business. Here you see a picture of the canal walls being constructed. This is another view of the new canal walls being constructed. In the left center, you see one of the old canal locks that will be removed. In the upper center, you see the Seneca Woolen Mills, which is the current new home of the National Women's Hall of Fame. Here you see some of the rubble of the industrial buildings of the flats. As the industries had to relocate, some of the building materials were salvaged and sold. The building materials not salvaged and sold simply became rubble. In this picture, you see clearly what will become Van Cleef Lake, with Trinity Episcopal Church at the left. A new Ovid Street Bridge was needed because of the higher water level of the new canal. That new bridge, being built in 1915, is shown with the old predecessor Ovid Street Bridge behind it. The canal enlargement was completed in 1918 and reduced the number of locks on the Cayuga-Seneca Canal from 8 down to 4. The new locks were wider, longer, and higher. You will note that there is one lock where the Seneca River meets up with Cayuga Lake, such that the Seneca River then proceeds basically north. There were 2 adjacent locks in Seneca Falls and 1 in Waterloo. This is an aerial view of the so-called mudlock where the Seneca River meets up with the northern Cayuga Lake. Here you see the aerial view of locks 2 and 3, the adjacent locks in Seneca Falls. Here you see those 2 adjacent locks and the new artificial lake that became known in a few years as Van Cleef Lake. In this circa 1973 aerial view, you see the new Ovid Street Bridge created near top right and the Bridge Street Bridge near left center. You will note that there is no visual evidence of the former islands of the flats with their industries. This is an aerial view of Lock 4 in Waterloo. At left, you see the water race to the power plant, which just a lower portion of is shown at the very top left. Let me add that every time this lock is open to operate, 1.58 million gallons of water goes through the lock. This is a circa 1915 postcard view of the canal in Waterloo, with the present Presbyterian Church towers clearly shown. Here you see the very northeast corner of Seneca Lake and the westernmost portion of the Cayuga-Seneca Canal. In the Seneca Museum of Waterways and Industry in Seneca Falls, on one wall is this painting that is a full-size rendition of the size of a typical canal boat and the depth of the water of the Cayuga-Seneca Canal before it was enlarged in the 1910s. I have included this visual simply to point out that today you can rent a boat like this and travel anywhere you want on the former Erie Canal, including the Cayuga-Seneca Canal. Another canal in the Finger Lakes was the Crooked Lake Canal. The success of the Cayuga-Seneca Canal and the Erie Canal prompted the building of other canals in the Finger Lakes. This Crooked Lake Canal connected Cayuga Lake with Seneca Lake. The Crooked Lake Canal was an 8-mile long canal, but it had 28 locks for the 270-foot change in elevation. This compares with 90 locks on the 360 miles of the Erie Canal. The Crooked Lake Canal was opened in 1833, but officially abandoned in 1877 because it was plagued by problems from the very beginning, mainly maintenance costs because of the extensive number of locks. Nevertheless, this canal encouraged the development of businesses along its route until the railroad lines came along. Today, the former Crooked Lake Canal area has become the Cayuga Lake Outlet Trail. Another canal in the Greater Finger Lakes area was the Chemung Canal. The Chemung Canal opened in 1833 and connected the Chemung River at Elmira with Seneca Lake at Watkins Glen. This canal had 51 locks for an elevation change of over 400 feet between Elmira and Watkins Glen. This Chemung Canal facilitated the shipment of northern Pennsylvania coal to Seneca Lake and then to the Cayuga-Seneca Canal to the Erie Canal. The Chemung Canal closed in 1878 largely because of competition from the railroads. This is a historical view of the Chemung Canal in Montour Falls. Here you see some canal boats at the docks in Elmira. In this view, you see that at this point, the Chemung Canal is to the right of the Chemung River, not actually using the river itself. The last canal in the Greater Finger Lakes area I want to talk about was the Oswego Canal. It opened in 1828. It is 23.7 miles long and connects the Erie Canal at three rivers where the Oneida, Seneca, and Oswego rivers join near Phoenix, New York. It connects the Erie Canal at Three Rivers with Lake Ontario. This Oswego Canal has 7 locks with 118 feet change in elevation. This Oswego Canal is the only water route from the Atlantic Ocean to Lake Ontario that is fully within the United States. This Oswego Canal is still operational today, as is the Cayuga-Seneca Canal. Here you see an aerial view of a lock in Oswego, where the Oswego Canal joins up with Lake Ontario. I prepared this chart from data from one historian's book to show that of all of these canals in the Finger Lakes area, only the Erie Canal was profitable. Nevertheless, these other canals, the Cayuga-Seneca Canal, the Crooked Lake Canal, the Chemung Canal, and the Oswego Canal, contributed greatly to the economic growth of the Finger Lakes. Today, we have the Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor that was created by the United States Congress in 2000. You will note that it includes both Cayuga and Seneca Lakes because of the Seneca-Cayuga Canal and also the Oswego Canal, but not the areas of the former Crooked Lake and Chemung Canals. Although these canals no longer are major paths for shipping freight, they offer tourists a wonderful opportunity to rent a boat like this and travel the historic canal routes and enjoy some real beautiful scenery. I hope you have enjoyed this segment of our Finger Lakes history.